We overdo our concerns about our foreign threats, but we do forget about the threat from our domestic conditions that we have here. And since 9/11, our liberties have been threatened. They have been undermined. We are less free since 9/11. We're going in the wrong direction. Both parties in these last several decades, and especially in the last decade, has accepted the notion of the unitary president, which is essentially a dictatorship, allowing the president to make decisions on his own. And just think of the inconsistency of turning this power over to the executive branch and then allowing the president to make these decisions, writing executive orders. There should be essentially no executive orders, or very, very few executive orders. And we can't have a president that goes and takes a bill and arbitrarily writes a signing statement and says, oh, I only like part of this bill, I'm going to ignore the other part. No presidential signing statements to have line item vetoes. But what about the bureaucrats in Washington? Do you think they should have the power to write law? Where did they get this power? Only the Congress is supposed to write the laws, and yet bureaucrats are writing the laws all the time. Just think of the Federal Register. Volumes and volumes and volumes, and if you don't understand every single regulation, you can get into big trouble. And yet, isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful that the Constitution is not complex? We can read it, and most school kids should be able to understand it. That might be one of the reasons the Constitution is not taught in our public schools, because if we raise up a new generation of individuals, they might realize that this whole system of government that we're inheriting and that we're working with and trying to change is unconstitutional. We shouldn't have it. The Republic, it didn't come all of a sudden. This has come slowly and insidiously. The last 100 years has been tough on the Republic. But it started immediately after the Constitution. I mean, the Jeffersonians argued with the Hamiltonians, and they talked about central banking and big government and sedition acts. And so the fights were going on very early to undermine these principles that the founders understood. But today it's been more rapid, it's insidious and slowly. But I think what has lulled so many people to sleep has been that we have been pretty prosperous. We're still fairly prosperous. But there is a big difference today, and why the people are awakening is they know that it's an illusion. They know that the prosperity is actually going down, and they're starting to realize that this prosperity comes from too much borrowing and too much spending and too much inflation. It is sad that we are having this threat of terrorism because of the clash of civilization. Another civilization wants to attack us because we are a certain civilization. I haven't bought into that. But there is some religious problems in the world that helps contribute to this, and there's a foreign policy problem that contributes to it. But I do believe that there is a real clash and argument between radical Muslim fundamentalists in contrast to secular Muslims. It just happens that we as a nation have allied ourselves with secular Muslims, imposed our will by propping up these puppet governments in the Middle East, antagonizing and actually giving motivation to the radicalism that wants to come here to kill us. But why should that be so strange? What if somebody came over here that looked differently than us, had different religious and different values, and put an air base on our land and imposed their will? The one good thing that would come of that is this whole country would be totally unified, because we would resent the enforcement, the occupation of any foreign power on our land.